Hello, good evening, friends. I'm CA Manish Dafaria, and we all have joined this LVC of ICAI for having a discussion about this CA final paper, Direct Tax Laws. And the topic which we will be discussing today is going to be the income tax authorities. Small topic, not much of the complication, part of procedural aspect of the income tax. As we all must be knowing, our income tax can be segregated into two different parts at a macro level. One is what is called all the computational provisions, where we calculate the taxable income, tax liability, deductions, exemptions, surcharge, cess, and all those things, five heads of income, and all other aspects of, say, computation calculation part. And then there is a procedural part of income tax. As a professional chartered accountant, we have to not only calculate the tax liability correctly of an assessee, but we are also required to handle his cases before the income tax authorities. So this is the income tax authority topic, which we will be discussing in two sessions, this one and then the next one, which will be day after tomorrow. The idea which we will try to generate based on this whole discussion is who all are income tax authorities, what are different level of authorities, what is typically called hierarchy of income tax authorities, what are their powers, what are their functions, what they can do, what they cannot do. All these issues is what we will be discussing. Along with this income tax authorities, we will have a very important discussion, that is income tax search and survey. As per the scheme of our syllabus, that whole search and survey is also part of this topic of income tax authorities. So this also we are going to discuss in these two sessions only. Income tax search, income tax survey. You all must have heard about income tax rates. in any city, if there is an income tax raid, then that definitely becomes say headline of the newspaper next day, huge issues, major repercussions. So what exactly are these income tax rates? What is typically called income tax search? And then say smaller version of that income tax search, what is called income tax survey. That is also going to be part of our discussion in these two sessions. So all aspects about income tax authorities is what we will be discussing here. So let's start the discussion. Okay. So this, in fact, is going to be our agenda of this particular topic. We will start by understanding about various income tax authorities. Who are these authorities? Who appoint them? Who controls them? A very important aspect of jurisdiction. Jurisdiction of income tax authorities. Just consider the situation that in whole of the India, there are lakhs and crores of assessees, and then there are thousands of income tax officers. Okay. Which income tax officer can send a notice to you or to your assessee? Very clearly, somebody who is working in Bombay, whether say income tax officer of Jaipur can send a notice to that particular person. What if that person is working in Bombay, but his place of residence happens to be in Jaipur? In that case, whether Jaipur income tax officer can send a notice to this particular person, we need to understand all these things. Okay, so not only from an examination perspective, all these topics are required to be seen from a real life perspective, and then the exam questions then come automatically. If you develop a real life understanding of the topic, then exam questions are ultimately based on these real life situations only, and then you will be definitely in a far better position to handle all those answers. So we will also try to discuss all this thing from a real life perspective, how it happens actually. What is the say jurisdiction of an income tax authority with reference to a person? The example which we have generated with reference to a person who is working in Bombay, but his place of residence happens to be Jaipur. Whether an income tax officer from Indore can send a notice to this person, from Chennai, income tax officer can issue a notice to this person. What is the jurisdiction? So that we will be discussing. We will have some discussion about taxpayers charter, more a theoretical kind of topic, just to generate a basic awareness. What are the powers of the income tax authorities? What they can do, what they cannot do? What is the legal authority given to different kind of income tax officers, different income tax authorities? A very simple understanding you all can generate, that any income tax authority can do only such thing for which he has been given specific power under the act. Anything which has been done beyond the powers given in the act, that is called officer is exceeding his authority, exceeding his jurisdiction. You may note down these terms. In examination, writing these professional terms would always help. It always makes a good impression on your examiner. So exceeding the jurisdiction, exceeding the authority. That means income tax officer is doing something which is beyond the powers given to him or her under the Income Tax Act. So what are these powers? What is the four corner within which an income tax officer can operate? Powers of income tax authorities, that we will discuss. And as I have mentioned, we will have a very detailed and hopefully an interesting discussion with respect to income tax survey, search and seizure, raids of income tax. Okay, chapa income tax ka jo padta hai, something about all those aspects of income tax. We will have a very detailed discussion. Who can do an income tax search? What exactly they can do during the course of search? What are the rights of an assessee in the case of income tax search? Something very advanced level aspect of income tax. Those professionals who practice into the area of income tax search, they are considered to be, say, top shots of the income tax professional hierarchy. So we will develop a good understanding about these survey, search and seizure provisions also. Okay, so friends, this is going to be our agenda for today's discussion. Some part of it may get deferred to our next session, which is day after tomorrow also. Okay. Fine. So let's start with this idea about various types of income tax authorities, various classes of income tax authorities, who all are income tax authority, who manage this whole act, who run this whole show from the income tax department side. So we might be aware already, the first and the topmost income tax authority is what is called CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes. Or in short, it is called board also. Okay, CBDT or Central Board of Direct Taxes. Fine. Just to give you an idea, we are having this income tax as part of our direct tax, and then we have, say, GST as part of indirect tax. Both the taxes, the supreme authority is called board in short. Okay, for income tax, this is CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes, and for GST, this is CBEC. Okay, so they also, the GST is also governed at the top by their board, and income tax is also governed at the top by this board called CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes. So we keep on using these terms interchangeably, CBDT or board. Okay, everybody understands when you use this kind of language within the context of income tax. You say, oh, okay, this is a circular by board. So everybody understand board, that means you are referring to CBDT, talking about Central Board of Direct Taxes. Okay. So what exactly is the status of the CBDT? CBDT is the highest executive authority. executive authority, who has been given responsibility to execute the provisions of all these acts. The act is made by the parliament. Parliament is the say legislative body, legislative authority, and that act made by the parliament is then operationalized, is executed by the income tax authorities. So that's why the term is executive authority. The highest executive authority is CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes. Now, it supervises and controls whole of the income tax department. All the officers of the income tax department are subordinate to CBDT. CBDT controls their function. CBDT decides about their place of posting. CBDT allocates work to different officers. CBDT issues instructions to the officers for performance of their job and everything. So the whole supervise and control of income tax department is with CBDT. Okay. A very important job which is done by CBDT is framing the rules. There is the section 295 of our Income Tax Act 1961, where the CBDT has been given power to make rules for income tax. If say you are referring to BAR Act for the purpose of your income tax study, then you might have come across a term again and again as may be prescribed. At number of places in Income Tax Act, it is written as may be prescribed. So what exactly is the meaning of this prescribed? Any idea? Can you send me some messages in chat? What exactly is the meaning of this prescribed as may be prescribed? Okay. So whenever the word prescribed has been used, that means a rule would be framed for this particular purpose. Act has given us a basic provision. Now, number of other issues related with that particular provision would be given in that particular rule. Okay. So whenever the act says that as may be prescribed, that means the further detail in this regard would be available in the income tax rule. Now, who frames this rule? The rules are framed by CBDT, Central Board of Direct Taxes, frames all these rules of income tax. Okay, so the act is created by the Parliament. Rules are created by the CBDT. This is the very basic difference a chartered accountant must have a clarity about. Okay, Income Tax Act 1961, that is that has been framed, that has been passed, that has been created by the Parliament, the legislative body. Then Parliament has given power to CBDT under Section 295 to frame the rules with respect to various provisions of the Income Tax Act. And then they write simply in the Act as may be prescribed. And then in terms of the provisions of that particular Act, rules are framed by CBDT. Okay. Another very important job which is done by CBDT is issuing binding instructions under Section 119 of the Income Tax Act. Okay, you might have heard about this thing again, that a circular has been issued by the CBDT. Okay. For example, very recently there were extension of filing of income tax return due dates, tax audit due dates, and everything. For all this, the board has issued a particular circular. For number of other aspects of income tax, they keep on issuing circulars. These circulars are called binding instructions under Section 119 of the Income Tax Act. All these circulars are issued under Section 119 of Income Tax Act, and they are binding on the income tax officers. Okay, you need to have this clarity that circulars issued by CBDT are binding on the income tax officers, but they are not binding on the assessee. If they are beneficial to the assessee, then assessee may definitely take the benefit of these circulars, but otherwise circulars are binding for the income tax officers. That means an income tax officer is bound to comply with whatever circulars instructions issued by CBDT. And this is very natural also. For officers, the CBDT is boss. So boss is never wrong. Boss never makes a mistake. So whatever boss has said, whatever CBDT has said, all the officers have to comply with those directions, those instructions. They are binding on the income tax officers. But these instructions are not binding on the assessee. You are not my boss. I am assessee. CBDT is not my boss. What I am required to follow is the Income Tax Act, which has been framed by Parliament. So if circular and say act, if there is say there is a difference between there is a dispute between act and circular, income tax officers are bound to follow that circular, those instructions issued under section 119, but assessee is not required to follow those circulars. As I have said, only if they are beneficial to the assessee, he may follow those circulars. Otherwise, they are not binding on the assessee. So this is what is say all about CBDT. Four things we can remember about the CBDT. It is the highest executive authority for income tax. It frames a rule under section 295. It issues binding instructions under section 119. And then it supervises and control the whole IT department. The whole, all income tax officers are subordinate to this CBDT. Fine. Then come to remaining sets of the officers, other authorities. What would be expected from you here is to just familiarize yourself with these terminologies. Okay, these terms, in fact, we will be using at number of places subsequently also. So just familiarize yourself with these terminologies. Okay, so and you are seeing these two columns actually. Both these officers are considered to be at the same level, though they perform different functions. Okay, so for example, at the top you are having something called Principal Director General of Income Tax, and then you have Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax. In majority of cases, these two officers would be mentioned in the act simultaneously. So by and large, you can keep in mind wherever there is a PDGIT coming, there would be a PCCIT would also be there. Just to generate a basic idea from examination purposes also. So PDGIT and PCCIT both are say at the same both are of the same rank of the officers, and majority of places in the Income Tax Act, both the officers have been referred. Whenever a permission is to be taken, we will see it later on. Whenever, say, a lower level officer has to seek permission, so you will always find a mention of PDGIT and PCCIT also. Okay. Then below this, the next level officers, and then you can see the difference between second and third is principal has been gone. The term principal is no more there. So we were having Principal Director General of Income Tax, then we are having Director General of Income Tax. So earlier it was PDGIT, now it is DGIT. And similarly, in the next column again, out of PCCIT, the P is gone. So that will help you to remember, that will help you to memorize. So first you have PDGIT and PCCIT. Then you have DGIT and CCIT, that is level 2. Then the next level, overall hierarchy level number 4, then you can see out of that third Director General, the General is out. And from Chief Commissioner, the Commissioner is out, Chief is out. So you have Directors of Income Tax and Commissioners of Income Tax. Again, with respect to this directors and commissioners, you have principal director, principal commissioner at level number 4, and level number 5, you have only director and only commissioner. So in 2 and 3, you were having principal, and then principal was not there at third. Fourth and fifth, again, the same concept is applicable. At fourth level, you have principal director and principal commissioner of income tax. Fifth level, you only have director of income tax and commissioner of income tax. So you have PDIT, PCIT, and then DIT, CIT. Okay. Yes. So second and third, the act is talking about chief commissioners, principal chief commissioner, and chief commissioner. Fourth and fifth, they are talking about commissioners, principal commissioner and commissioner. Chief is out. From second and third to fourth and fifth, the chief is out with respect to this commissioner. Okay. And with respect to director, the general is out. Second and third, principal director general and director general. Fourth and fifth, only principal director and director. This is how some techniques you need to devise just to make yourself familiarize with these terms, just to able to recall them properly. So you have PDGIT, PCCIT, DGIT, CCIT, PDIT, PCIT, DIT, and CIT. One very important idea you need to generate, and here lot many people have an avoidable confusion. At the CIT level, at this Commissioner of Income Tax level, you actually have two types of CITs. One is plain simple CIT, Commissioner of Income Tax, and second is Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals, what is called Appellate Commissioner also sometimes. Okay, so CIT and CIT Appeals, short form used is CIT-A. So these are two different CITs. These are two different officers. When we will be studying about other procedural aspects of income tax like assessments and appeals and revisions, then this difference would become very, very important. For example, there is a procedure called revision in income tax that is done by CIT, Commissioner of Income Tax. And then there is an appeal in the income tax that is handled by CIT Appeals, Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. So one should not get confused between CIT and CIT-A. CIT is a separate officer, CIT-A is a separate officer. Both are at the same rank as such. Okay. And corresponding to CIT, we have DIT also, Directors of Income Tax. Okay. Then at the sixth level, you have something called additional director or additional commissioners. So AD-DIT or AD-CIT is the short form which is used for them, additional directors and additional commissioners of income tax. Okay, fine. Then moving forward, just try to familiarize yourself with these terms. Okay, so you were having commissioners, additional commissioners, and below that additional commissioner, then you have joint commissioner. Sometimes this again becomes a confusion kind of thing. Okay, commissioner, then addition, who comes first, who comes below. So somehow you need to keep this thing in mind. Commissioner, additional commissioner, and then joint commissioner, then deputy commissioner, then assistant commissioner. Okay, so additional, joint, deputy, assistant. Additional, joint, deputy, assistant, AJDA, because this area creates a confusion. So somehow you need to devise a way to memorize this thing. Additional, joint, deputy, assistant. Okay. And every level you will have joint commissioner, you will have joint director, you will have deputy commissioner, you will have deputy director, you will have assistant commissioner, you will have assistant director. Okay, so that idea should be clear by now. So now you have joint commissioner of income tax, deputy commissioner of income tax, and assistant commissioners of income tax. Okay. Another, if you must be able to notice now in this case, like we have CIT and CIT-A. Similarly, we have JCIT and JCIT-A. JCITs, they handle basically mainly the job of assessments. JCITA, they handle the appeals filed by the assessee. Okay, in some cases, appeals are handled by JCITA. In some cases, appeals are handled by CITA. Okay, this is internal, say, arrangement of income tax department. We are not required to bother about it, but we need to keep this thing in mind. There is this JCIT, and then there is this JCITA. Okay. Below this, we have deputy commissioner, we have assistant commissioner. So with this, at this level, the commissioners are now out of picture. They've started from level 2, principal chief commissioner, principal commissioner, commissioner, additional commissioner, joint commissioner, deputy commissioner, assistant commissioner. Okay. So these are, say, 8 levels of commissioners we are having. Okay, 8 hierarchies, 8 levels where you have commissioner as a part of their nomenclature, as a part of their name. And at every level, you have this the commissioner being replaced with the director, chief commissioner, director general. All other cases, commissioner getting replaced with the director. So you can have a clear idea about all the officers of the Income Tax Act. Okay. Generally speaking, by and large, this slide, all the officers we are seeing at this slide, joint commissioner, deputy commissioner, assistant commissioner, they handle mainly the work of assessment. Assessment, income declared by the assessee, whether the correct income has been declared or not. That verification, that assessment that you will study in a separate chapter. So that is handled by joint commissioners, deputy commissioner, assistant commissioners. Okay. Now below this, you have ITOs, income tax officers. Okay. Income tax officers as such are considered to be the first official level of the income tax from the bottom. At top, it is CBDT, and at the bottom, this is ITO. The first official officer grade of income tax starts with ITO. So from ITO, then the two CBDT, this completes the whole officer's grade, the whole officer cadre of the income tax department. Okay. Below ITO, then we have officers like TRO, tax recovery officers, and then we have inspectors of income tax. Okay, but TROs handle the whole tax recovery work. Inspectors do some verification work. Sometimes they are associated with ITOs, subordinate to the ITO, helping him, assisting him in carrying out the assessment work, something like this. So these are all in all 11, 12 levels of officers, hierarchy of the income tax department, starting from CBDT till this TRO and inspector. Out of this 12, as we have seen, at 8 levels, we have different levels of commissioners. So just to help you in memorizing all these things, apart after CBDT, you have 8 levels of commissioners, starting with principal chief commissioner, then chief commissioner, then principal commissioner, then additional commissioner, joint commissioner, deputy commissioner, and assistant commissioner. 8 levels of commissioners. Okay, wherever there are commissioners, correspondingly you have directors also. Okay, and then CBDT plus 8 level of commissioners, then you have ITOs, TROs, and inspectors of income tax. All in all, 12 levels of income tax officers, income tax authorities. Okay, so this is what is the say familiarization ourselves with the different level of officers. The complete setup of the income tax department. Okay, now onwards, if you get any chance to go to any income tax office, then you will find these names familiar kind of thing. You will see different nameplates before in front of different rooms mentioning these kind of terms. So now you know all these terms. You know what is the hierarchy. Assistant commissioner is superior to ITO. Deputy commissioner is further superior to assistant commissioner. Joint commissioner is superior to say deputy, assistant, and ITO. So who is sitting at which level? That idea now you should be able to frame in your mind. Okay, fine. Okay, so this completes, in fact, our first part of this discussion. Who are different income tax authorities? Just to add one more, say, last point to it, assessing officer. This is also a term you will be reading a lot during the course of further discussions. Those of you who are having a practical exposure of income tax in your articleships, then if you have handled this income tax procedural assessments and appeals and everything, then you might have noticed this term written at a number of places, what is called assessing officer, or in short, what is called AO, assessing officer, or AO. So who is this AO? Who is this assessing officer? Who actually does my assessment? What are the types of assessment? What exactly in assessment? That again you will be studying in a separate chapter. But the idea is this: who is an AO? Who performs? Who does my assessment work? Okay. So section says ACIT and DCIT. Now full form should start ringing in your mind. ACIT, Assistant Commissioner of Income Tax. IT would remain common, obviously. This is income tax. So ACIT, Assistant Commissioner of Income Tax. Then you have DCIT, one step above, Deputy Commissioner of Income Tax. And parallel to them, in place of C, there is D, Commissioner to Director. Okay, to write a complete answer in examination. These ideas always help. So ACIT or DCIT or ADIT or DDIT, assessing officer, the term assessing officer includes all of them, or an ITO, the lower level, who is vested with the relevant jurisdiction by virtue of orders issued by CBDT. So CBDT may ask ITO to also exercise this jurisdiction of say, assessing officer. So ITO who is vested with the relevant jurisdiction. And sometimes assessing officer may include authorities at a higher level also. ACIT, DCIT. Now, above DCIT, you have JCIT, and above JCIT, you have additional CIT. So, assessing officer may include additional CIT or additional DIT or JCIT or JDIT also, who is directed to, say, exercise any of the powers assigned to AO. Okay, so CBDT may issue directions that in some cases, even additional CIT or joint CIT would also exercise the powers of assessing officer. Okay, so assessing officer terms includes all this. AO, the common parlance, the term which you will find written in number of cases, AO. So it would be referring to officers at any of these levels. Fine. So fine. This completes our say the first part of discussion, different income tax authorities. Who all are the income tax authorities? At least we should have a clarity about their names and their position in the overall hierarchy. Now I should have an absolute clarity that a DCIT is superior to an ACIT. A JCIT is a superior to DCIT and ACIT both, not only from an examination perspective, but in a real life situation also. These terms people keep on using. So one should be able to develop the right meaning in the mind. When somebody talks about CIT, that means he is talking about about an officer who is at a fairly high level, at a very high level, fairly high level in the income tax. Okay. Somebody is talking about, say, principal CCIT. So practically speaking, he is the, say, biggest boss of that particular area. Above principal CCIT, you will have CBDT board only. Okay. So practically speaking, principal CCIT is the, say, highest level of authority, big boss. Okay. So that connect should be there in mind. So at least that much idea now we are able to frame based on this whole discussion, this whole hierarchy about income tax officers. Fine. Any questions at this level? Those who have joined live. If technical team is there, any feedback are we getting? Okay, no questions. Clear. Yogesh Agrawal, somewhere from South. Clear. Thank you, Yogesh. Neha is from North. Sanjay Hakku is again somewhere from north. Okay, fine. So this is all about, say, the first very basic understanding. From an examination perspective, you may not have any direct question on this area except something about these hierarchies. So knowing that nomenclature would be good enough for you, and knowing their internal relationship, who sits at the top, who is below whom, some kind of that idea you need to form. I'm sure one or two more studies kind of thing, say 10-15 minutes more of study, and then you will get a say very clear, you will be able to form a clarity about this particular aspect. Fine. So now let's move to the next part of this discussion. Just a very basic general idea as such, just to form a complete picture. Appointment and control. Okay, so who appoints all these income tax officers? We all know, obviously, central government. They are central government officers. Okay. With respect to GST, you might be knowing that in GST, central government also appoints, and even state government also appoints GST officers. You have central GST officers, you have state GST officers. Income tax, whole soul controlled only by the central government, no role of state government as such. So central government appoints all these income tax authorities. Okay. Sometimes they may authorize CBDT or PDGIT. Who is this PDGIT? Principal Director General of Income Tax. Or they may authorize PCCIT or CCIT also, to appoint lower level officers below the rank of assistant commissioner, deputy commissioners, like inspectors and TROs and everybody. That level, the appointment of that may be delegated by the government to other higher officers. Okay. And then CBDT may specify subordination by notification. Okay, so CBDT may issue a notification who will be subordinate to whom. Say, for example, there are, say, around 500 commissioners in whole of the India. There are good number of deputy commissioners, good number of joint commissioners, etc. So who all would be subordinate to whom? Who will report to whom? How this whole department would function, so that CBDT may specify subordination by that whole notification. Okay, so say for example, there is principal commissioner, principal chief commissioner of income tax sitting somewhere in Chandigarh. Okay, now there are commissioners also in that particular area. So who all commissioners would be subordinate to PCCIT of Chandigarh? CBDT would be issuing a notification. So there is PCCIT Bangalore. Now, and then you have commissioner of income tax sitting probably in Mysore also, okay, or in Hubli also. So whether Mysore commissioner of income tax would be subordinate to the Bangalore principal chief commissioner, all this thing is handled by CBDT. They issue notification and specify who will be subordinate to whom. Just a basic general idea. That's all. Okay. Now coming to this CBDT instructions. Okay, we had a say some discussion in the earlier slide also, but then we need to develop a further detailed understanding about this circulars of CBDT, instructions by CBDT. Examiners love this particular area. They keep on creating questions on this particular aspect of say income tax. So let's develop a more clear understanding about this section 119 of income tax, instructions by the CBDT. As I have mentioned earlier also, see, this whole income tax is a very, very real life subject. So all those issues which are relevant in the real life of a chartered accountant, you will find a good relevance of those issues even in examination also. So circular of CBDT affects the life of a professional chartered accountant to a great extent. Like this whole extension of due date. Those of you in your offices having exposure to income tax, you should be able to realize immediately the importance of return filing, income tax due date, and the extension of it. The relax it creates, the feel good factor it creates, that relaxation. Now, how that relaxation happens? Obviously, by an instruction of CBDT. So CBDT instructions play a very important role not only for the income tax officers, but for the general public, and for that matter, even for the professional chartered accountants also. So let's develop a deeper understanding about this whole concept of CBDT instructions circulars. Okay. So the very first thing is section 119. Good if you can remember this number also. Section 119 of income tax authorizes the CBDT and says that CBDT may issue orders, instructions, directions, ODI, order, direction, instructions to its subordinate for the proper administration of the act. Okay, how you will be functioning, how this act would be administered. For this, CBDT may issue ODI to the officers, orders, directions, and instructions. Okay, but then what CBDT cannot do? Now, mind you, CBDT is boss. Boss can do anything? No. Here, the boss powers are being determined by the act. So, act decide what you can do and what you cannot do. Act, that means here 119. So, what 119 says, what you cannot do. You cannot direct the AO to do the assessment in a particular manner. CBDT cannot issue instruction to assessing officer that, okay, this is the assessment of say, a very big film star of the country. So make this assessment in this kind of manner. Okay, this is the assessment of, say, captain of Indian cricket team. So give him some relaxation. Or this is the assessment of, so you cannot do this. You cannot direct the assessment in a particular manner. You can issue the general guidelines. You can issue the general instructions about various provisions of the act, how the assessing officer should be verifying the matter, what kind of, say, inquiry he should be conducting, but you cannot direct assessment to be done in a particular manner. Okay, and then you cannot interfere with the two appellate authorities. What two appellate authorities we have discussed earlier? JCITA and CITA, Joint Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals and Commissioner of Income Tax Appeals. These two are appellate authorities. Now, appellate authorities are required to function independently, though they are within the framework of income tax, but they have to act like a judge. And the basic requirement of a judge is the judge should be independent. Okay, so CBDT cannot interfere with the discretion of the JCITA and CITA in the exercise of their appellate function. You cannot give direction that, okay, in this appeal, go against the assessee, or this appeal favor the income tax department. You cannot interfere with their discretion. So two things they cannot do: direct the assessment in a particular manner and interfere with the discretion of the appellate authorities. Fine. Then what else they can do? They may issue orders in respect of any class of income, class of cases, setting forth direction and instructions not being prejudicial to the assessee. Okay, they may issue any order. This may be a general order or it may be a special order for the particular type of income, for the particular type of case, and give directions and instructions which are not prejudicial to the assessee. The obvious example would again be extension of due date of return filing for all the assessees who are required to get their books of accounts audited. A class of assessee. Only those assessees who are required to get their books of accounts audited, the return filing due date has been extended. An order has been issued by the CBDT, which is obviously not prejudicial to the assessee. This is good now. If they are extending the due date of filing of return or filing of tax audit report, it is good. It is not prejudicial to the assessee. So they may issue this general or special orders. And then they may relax certain provisions of the Act to remove hardship. Number of provisions are there where Act puts a particular condition. Assessee is required to do this. This is what is mentioned in the provision. Now, sometimes CBDT feel that this may create a hardship. So they may relax certain provisions. Say, for example, there is this due date of payment of advance tax, which happens to be on 15th of September. Or a better example, during COVID times. Okay, now TDS is required to be deposited, we all know, every month by a particular date. Now, just recall during the COVID times, it was very difficult to deposit that whole TDS by that particular due date. Offices were not functioning. Everybody was, say, in the house only. So CBDT has relaxed that particular requirement in that period, that you can deposit your TDS not by this date, but by a later date. So what CBDT has done, they have relaxed the provisions of the Act to remove that particular hardship. So these are the powers of the CBDT. Okay, so three types of powers we are discussing. In this case, issuing ODI to the lower authorities. Okay, issuing special or general order not prejudicial to the assessee. And third, relaxing the provisions of the Act to remove the hardship. Okay, so general or special order, ODI to the lower officers, and removing the hardship. What they cannot do is to direct the assessment in a particular manner and then interfere with the, say, appellate discretion of the appellate authorities. Next part of it. Okay. Now it should be self-explanatory. They may authorize an income tax authority to admit an application or claim for any exemption, deduction, refund, or any relief under this Act after the expiry of the specified period. So in the Income Tax Act, there are various provisions where a deadline has been prescribed for the assessee. That if you want to avail this kind of benefit, you have to comply with this particular deadline. If you fail to do something by this particular date, a benefit will not be available to you. A very simple idea would be with respect to carry forward of losses. If you want to carry forward your losses, you have to file your income tax return on or before the due date. Then only you will be allowed to carry forward your losses. This is what is prescribed in the Act. It is the provision of the Act. Now, CBDT may allow carry forward of losses even if the return has been filed after the due date, even after the expiry of period specified under the Act. If CBDT feel there were certain genuine hardship in any particular case or in a class of cases, then CBDT may allow to carry forward the losses even if the return has been filed after the due date. So this is one example, and there may be numerous other examples of this nature where they may authorize any income tax authority, again, except those appellate officers. Any income tax authority, CBDT may authorize that, okay, you can accept an application or a claim for any exemption, deduction, refund, etc., even after the expiry of the deadline. The deadline which has been given in the Act itself, CBDT may allow the claim even after that particular deadline. Okay. And then similarly, it may relax the requirements specified in Chapter 4 or Chapter 6A. Chapter 6A is all my deductions, section 80C onwards. So for claim of all those deductions, or for say even chapter 4 is all my 5 heads of income. So there are number of requirements in both of these chapters. If I want to claim some deduction, then I have to do certain compliance. Now CBDT may relax the requirement specified in that particular chapter if CBDT feels that there is a genuine hardship in all these cases due to circumstances beyond the control of assessee. Assessee has failed to comply with such requirements. And then ultimately assessee has complied with those requirements. CBDT may relax the requirement specified in chapter 4 or chapter 6A. Just to create an example, say for example, there is this requirement in the chapter of business and profession. That is part of chapter 4 mentioned here. Okay, so business profession, that is this say provident fund payment, provident fund contribution received from the employee that is required to be deposited with the PF authority on or before the due date. Otherwise, this becomes a disallowance. Those of you who have done some tax audits in this last season in your office, you should be able to recall, you must have done this exercise in almost every case. Okay, verifying when the provident fund has been deposited, filling up that particular schedule of tax audit report, and then if the PF deposit is after the due date, then that has to be disallowed, that has to be added to your income. Something like this exercise some of you might have done. So now the act says that provident fund contribution received from the employee, if not deposited with the provident fund before the due date, it will be added to your income. Some case CBDT feel that there is a default due to circumstances beyond the control of the assessee. So say every month the provident fund is required to be deposited by 15th. Now, CBDT sees that in one particular month, around 15, there was a major internet blockage in the country. Okay, people were not able to log in, they were not able to make online payments. So, there is a default in deposit due to circumstances beyond the control of assessee. Now, CBDT may relax this particular requirement if the assessee has complied with this requirement before the completion of assessment. So assessee has deposited this provident fund contribution not by the due date, but say a week later, the compliance has been done. They couldn't comply by the due date because of circumstances beyond their control. There might be a war-like situation in the country sometime, or there might be any other reason where I couldn't comply with the requirement of the act. So CBDT may relax these requirements also. Okay, so these are all in all 5 6 aspects about the CBDT one should keep in mind. Section 119 of the Income Tax Act, 5 things about what CBDT can do, and then one point regarding what CBDT cannot do. So just to have a quick recap, CBDT may issue ODI, orders, directions, instructions to its subordinate officers. Okay. Then CBDT may issue general or special order not prejudicial to the assessee. Then it may relax certain provisions of the act to remove the hardship. It may authorize income tax authorities to admit any application or claim for exemption beyond the due date, and it may relax the requirements specifically for Chapter 4 and Chapter 6A of the Income Tax Act. What it cannot do, it cannot direct assessments in a particular manner, and it cannot interfere with the discretion of the appellate authorities. Okay, instructions by CBDT. Fine. And in this regard, we would like to discuss one particular instruction circular. You can take them as a synonymous, as an interchangeable term. Common terminology, we call it circular, act call it instruction by the CBDT. So in this regard, with respect to CBDT powers of relaxation, what we have discussed, at this case, may authorize any income tax authority to admit an application beyond the due date. So in this regard, CBDT has issued a common circular number 11/2024, guideline for condonation of delay in refund and loss return cases. The example which we have generated, that if you file your return belatedly, the carry forward of loss will not be available. And then there may be a similar situation. Say, for example, there may be a similar situation with respect to refund also. So, say for example, we were say there is a TDS for the assessee. The tax liability is nil, and the TDS refund he can claim. Now we all know, for claim of refund, the return is to be filed maximum by 31st of December of the assessment year. So for example, this is for the financial year 22-23. Previous year 22-23, a refund is to be claimed. The due date of filing of return for PY 22-23 is already over. It was 31st of December 23. PY 22-23 you are talking, then AY 23-24, 31st of December 23 was the last date by which you must have filed the return to claim that refund of TDS. If you are familiar with all these due dates of returns, fine enough. Otherwise, you will be reading it later on also. So just try to understand right now based on say a common sense approach. So it is PY 22-23. There is a refund. You must have filed the return by 31st of December 23. You haven't filed it. Now, today you would like to claim that particular refund. Today, November 25. It amounts to say 5 lakhs of rupees, a huge amount. How you can claim it? The law says deadline is already gone. You have missed that particular bus. Then CBDT has issued the circular number 11, guidelines for condonation of delay in refund and loss returns. Okay, using the circular, you can claim your refund even after, say, expiry of deadline. The delay in filing of that return can be condoned in terms of provisions of the circular. So let's just see, let's take a deep dive into this circular. First of all, they have allowed different authorities to condone the delay. There is a delay in filing of that income tax return. Na? It should have been filed somewhere in 23. You want to file it today. So there is a delay. The delay can be condoned by officers using the circular of CBDT. So they have given, say, authority to condone the delay to the different levels of officer depending upon the quantum involved. Okay, if it is up to 1 crore, then it can be condoned by, the delay can be condoned by PCIT or CIT, Principal Commissioner or Commissioner of Income Tax. Okay. Then 1 to 3 crores, it can be condoned by Chief Commissioner, CCIT. And beyond 3 crores, it can be, the delay can be condoned by PCCIT, Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax. That's why having that hierarchy in mind would always help. You have CIT, you have CCIT, you have PCCIT. Okay, so up to 1 crore, it can be done by PCIT or CIT. Okay, then 1 to 3 crores, one step up, CCIT, Chief Commissioner of Income Tax. Beyond 3 crores, one step further, Principal Chief Commissioner, PCCIT. Okay, so this is the first idea regarding that condonation of delay in claim of refund or claim of loss. Who can condone this delay? This is the level depending upon the quantum. Okay. Then if there is a delay in ITR verification, there is one more situation. You have filed your return online, but you have not verified it within the due date. There is a timeline within which that return needs to be verified. Again, those of you who are having practical exposure in income tax must be familiar with the situation. Okay, there is an OTP kind of process, or you can send your that ITR file physically through speed post to Bangalore CPC. So suppose there is a delay in that ITR verification. CBDT has allowed CIT CPC, CIT, Commissioner of Income Tax CPC, to condone this delay in say ITR verification. So for this whole say refund and loss carry forward, the powers have been given to these PCIT up to PCCIT level. For this ITR verification delay, the condonation power has been given to CIT CPC. Now, what is the time limit? How much delay can be condoned? Condonation possible up to 5 years from the end of the assessment year. Okay, so if it is a case of AY 2021, the delay can be condoned up to 31st of March 26. That will be within that 5 years period. However, there is a delay with respect to AY 1920. Somebody was having a TDS refund for AY 1920. He couldn't file that return online and he couldn't wake himself up till now. Now the bus is gone. So now you are sleeping, keep on sleeping, sir. Now we won't be able to help you out. 5 years time period from the end of the assessment year. So today, in November 25, you can still file an application for condonation of delay if it is related with AY 2021, 21, 22, 22, 23 onwards. Okay, up to 5 years from the end of the assessment year, the application can be filed for condonation of delay. And then CBDT says within 6 months, this application needs to be disposed of by the concerned authority. Okay, with whom you will be filing this application? Principal CIT or CIT, CCIT, principal CCIT, depending upon the amount. If it is say up to 1 crore, less than 1 crore kind of refund is there, for example, 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs, 25 lakhs, 50 lakhs, something, then you can approach CIT or principal CIT. Beyond 1 crore up to 3 crore CCIT, and then PCCIT. Within what time limit you have to approach? Maximum within 5 years from the end of the assessment year. Okay, what would be the basis of this condonation? See, this is not a right. Law say the return has to be filed up to a particular date. It has to be filed. Only in exceptional cases we are giving you, we are condoning your delay. CBDT has issued the circular giving you, say, facility, but that cannot be used in every case. So there are conditions attached. First of all, you must show the reasonable cause. Why you have not filed your return up to the prescribed date? So what is the reasonable cause? You must demonstrate genuine hardship. Okay. Only if you are able to prove that there was genuine hardship because of which you cannot comply the original deadline, there was a reasonable cause, then only this delay would be condoned in terms of this circular. And then the concerned officer may ask the assessing officer to conduct further inquiries to ensure whether there was actually a genuine hardship or not, there is actually a reasonable cause or not. All those inquiries can be done through AO by the concerned authority. Okay, fine. So this is what is the circular about this condonation of delay with respect to claim of refund or claim of carry forward of loss. Then one more aspect is covered by this very circular, refund due to court orders. Okay, if there was a case in the court and in that case the court has ordered for granting any refund. Okay, this situation is handled by the circular where they say that for calculating that maximum period of 5 years within which you can file that application, the time spent in court proceeding would be excluded. See, there is a possibility the court case may keep on dragging for say 15 years. Then court says that okay, you can claim this particular refund. Now department say, sir, maximum 5 years time period, you are to coming us after 15 years. So go back. We are not going to entertain you. So CBDT circular clarifies that any time taken in code proceeding shall be excluded while calculating this period of 5 years. Okay. And then the concerned person may file an application within 6 months of the order month, in the whatever month the order has been given. From the end of that month, within 6 months you can file an application, or before the end of the financial year, whichever is later. So court order has been passed somewhere in the month of April 25. You can file this application till 31st March 26. If the court order has been passed somewhere in November 25, then from the end of this November, that is 30th of November, you can file this application within next 6 months, that is till 31st of May 26. Okay. Now, in this case, the refund might be related with any old year. It might be related with 2005, 2006 assessment year, 1907, 98 assessment year. The time spent in court proceeding would be excluded for calculating this 5 years period. And then within this after this court order, within this period, the claim is required to be filed by the assessee. Okay. Then there is a case of a supplementary refund also. This we are discussing a very specific case, that circular issued by the CBDT, through which you can claim your refund even after the expiry of deadline for filing that belated return. Okay. So there is a case of supplementary refund. Say for example, for a particular year, you have already filed your say return, and some refund has already been claimed. After 3 years, then you realize there is some more TDS for that particular year, for which you have not claimed your refund, or you might have paid some advance tax, because of which some refund was due, but that has not been claimed. So some refund has already been claimed. A further refund is to be claimed, yet the supplementary refund. Okay, so the circular allows a claim can be made even for that supplementary refund also, if that refund is arising from that excess TDS, TCS, advance tax, or self-assessment tax. They will not be paying you any interest on that supplementary refund. You have already filed your return. We have already given you a refund. Now you want to claim extra. So now for this delay period, we will not be granting you any refund as such. The income should be assessable in your hands only. It should not be taxable in the hands of anybody else. Then only the supplementary refund can be claimed by the assessee. Okay, so we are having a question from Neha, where Neha is asking, sir, time spent maybe 5 years or more years in case of refund due to court proceedings. Absolutely. See, again, let's see it from a common sense perspective. Court proceedings, we all know, can drag on for 10, 15, 20 years. No fault of the assessee. This is court. So if the court has given a decision after 20 years, and then income tax department says, even if court has decided in your favor, we will not grant you the refund because that 5 years time period is over. That will be a ridiculous situation. So that's why they have said that whatever time has been taken by that court proceeding, that will be excluded for calculating that 5 years time period. Okay. So yes, your answer to your question is very plain and simple. Yes, time spent maybe 5 years or more years in case of refund due to court proceedings. Okay, fine. So this is about supplementary refund claims. Okay. Complete the second part of our discussion. Okay. All about income tax authorities, and then about this CBDT power of issuing instructions under section 119. What CBDT can do, what CBDT cannot do, and using those powers under section 119, CBDT has issued the specific circular regarding condonation of delay in filing claim of refund, claim of carry forward of loss. So that particular circular also we have discussed. Okay, second aspect of our discussion. Now coming to third area, plain, simple, nothing to be discussed as such. A simple reading one time, two time should be good enough for you, just to make yourself aware that there is something of this concept in income tax, what is called a taxpayer charter. Okay. So in a sense, CBDT has issued a charter saying that how income tax department would be functioning towards the assessees, and what income tax department expects from the assessee in return. These are some good policies, these are some good ideas which CBDT says that income tax department, every income tax officer would be following. So they have prepared a charter. In every income tax office you will find this charter, hanging somewhere, telling that this is how income tax department would be functioning with respect to the citizens of the country, with respect to the assessees. Okay, so it will be giving them a fair treatment. It will, income tax department will presume everybody to be honest, will provide a mechanism for appeal and review, provide complete and accurate information, timely decisions they will be giving to the assessee. This is what they will always try to do. This is how they would be actually functioning, that the charter they have created in section 119A. Okay, so various points they have mentioned that this is what we will be doing, this is what, how we will try to conduct ourselves in a real life situation. Okay, we expect from taxpayers the honesty, proper records maintenance, timely response of the income tax notice. So there is an expectation from taxpayers also. Okay, just a brief idea, a simple reading should be good enough, nothing much to be discussed as such on this particular point. Okay, now we come to another very important aspect. That is, with respect to the jurisdiction of assessing officer. As I have mentioned at the start of the discussion, jurisdiction tells me who will govern, which officer will govern my assessee. if if I am talking about myself as an assessee, then who is the income tax officer who has an authority to issue notice to me, who will be doing my assessment, who will be having jurisdiction over me? Plain and simple common sense approach we can develop to generate that basic understanding that if I am working in Indore, I'm staying in Indore, an income tax officer sitting somewhere in Guwahati cannot issue any order to me. This is plain. Without reading anything, even we can understand this idea very clearly. Okay, so if I'm in Indore, the Guwahati officer cannot issue an instruction to me. Who then can issue notice? Who can then issue any assessment order in my case? Okay, if I am having, say, working in Mumbai, staying in Jaipur, then what will be the position? If I am having, say, branch offices at different places, then which income tax officer will have a jurisdiction over me? So we need to understand this whole idea about the jurisdiction. Okay, basically telling me which income tax officer would be having a control, a jurisdiction, a right over a particular assessee. Let's try to understand. Okay, so very first thing is this whole jurisdiction of an income tax officer would again be governed by the directions issued by CBDT. So CBDT would be deciding which officer will have what kind of jurisdiction, who can do what, who can govern which particular type of assessee. So say if an income tax officer tells me that okay, I have a jurisdiction on you, so I can obviously ask him that who has given you this authority? Who has given you a jurisdiction over me? His answer would be obviously the CBDT. CBDT has issued an order saying that this officer would be having jurisdiction over this particular type of assessees. Okay, so the very first idea is jurisdiction is decided as per the directions issued by the CBDT. Now, CBDT may issue directions with respect to jurisdiction. CBDT may allocate jurisdiction having regard to four criteria. This is important. What are these four criteria? One is territorial area. Okay, geographical area. Maharashtra, Gujarat, South Gujarat, North Gujarat, district of Ahmedabad, district of Rajkot, district of Anand, Northeast, Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, territorial area, geography. Okay. Then they may allocate jurisdiction based on persons also. Salaried assessees, business cases. Okay. So you will have jurisdiction over salaried assessees staying in Mumbai. Territorial plus person. Okay. Or say name wise. A till M, one officer, N till Z, another officer, persons, territorial area. In this particular area, city in Mumbai, from A to J, officer number one, then remaining officer number two, something like this. Territorial area, person, incomes. Income up to 5 lakhs of rupees. 5 lakhs to 50 lakhs of rupees, 50 lakhs to a crore of rupees, 1 crore to 5 crores kind of income. Okay, so income based criteria. And then cases or class of the cases. Cases where a search has been conducted by the income tax department, then these assessees would be in the jurisdiction of a different officer. Assessees who are having an international transaction, okay, transfer pricing provisions are applicable. So these assessees would be in the jurisdiction of a, say, different officer, okay. NRIs would be in the jurisdiction of a different officer. So four criteria are there based on which this whole jurisdiction is given by the CBDT. What are these four criteria? Keep absolutely clear. It's a common sense issue as such. Okay. So try to develop that understanding based on that common sense approach. They may allocate the jurisdiction based on geography, territorial area, based on persons, say company versus non-company, person, company is a person, individual is a person. So company versus non-company, company versus individual based on persons, then based on income, level of income, and based on type of case, search case, international transaction case, something like this. Territorial area, person, income, case or class of case. Four criteria are there based on which this whole say jurisdiction would be allotted by the CBDT, directions to be issued by CBDT, okay, having regard to these four criteria. Okay, now let's talk about this thing also. So suppose the jurisdiction has been allocated based on territorial areas, geographical areas, city of Jaipur, or say city of Jaipur would be having, because it's a large city, so it would be having, say, too many numbers of officers. For example, talk about a smaller city. The example may be, say, city of Nasik in Maharashtra. Okay. Or for that matter, city of say Nadyad in Gujarat, a smaller township. Okay. So somebody has been given jurisdiction over one particular city. Okay, one particular area. Now, the assessing officer vested with jurisdiction over any area. Now, he shall have jurisdiction within that area over two types of persons. Any person carrying on a business or profession in that particular area, and in case a person is not carrying on any business or profession, so any person who is residing within that particular area. So this area has been assigned to me. Jurisdiction over this area has been given to me. If you are the person carrying on a business and your place of business happens to be within my area, I have a jurisdiction over you. If you are carrying on a business, your place of business happens to be within my area, I have a jurisdiction over you. You are not carrying on a business, but you are residing in my area, I have a jurisdiction over you. Okay. So there is an income tax officer who has been given jurisdiction over, say, for example, area of South Bombay. They've defined a particular area. This would be treated as South Bombay. You will have jurisdiction over this particular area. Now, any person who has a place of business within that South Bombay area, that officer would have a jurisdiction over that particular person. If that person is carrying on business at more than one place, then if your principal place of business in that particular area, I will have a jurisdiction over you. And if you are not carrying on any business, but you are staying in my area, you are residing in my area, I will have a jurisdiction over you. So this is how the jurisdiction gets decided. Okay, over an assessee, which officer will be having a jurisdiction? This is how it gets decided. Okay, if the officer has been given jurisdiction based on area, based on territorial area, then what all persons would get covered into that particular jurisdiction? This is how we will decide it. Okay, I must tell you, this jurisdiction is a very, very important concept. You might be studying it later on also, or just for the sake of information, if any assessment is to be done for my assessee, the notice for that assessment has to be issued by the right officer having a jurisdiction over me. If the officer who has issued the original notice and then who has done the assessment was not having any jurisdiction over me, that assessment has been treated by courts as void ab initio, as say without any authority. That assessment becomes nullified the moment you tell to the court that this officer has issued a notice, has done my assessment, but he was not having any jurisdiction over me, the assessment is treated as absolutely without any authority of law. So practically in real life, this whole jurisdiction issue has got very, very high importance, and that's why it is important from an examination perspective also. What is the basis on which this jurisdiction would be allocated by CBDT? Four criteria. If the officer has been vested with jurisdiction over any particular area, then what all persons would fall into his jurisdiction? That is also an idea. These are the ideas we need to develop. Okay. Okay. Then this is another important point. See, if I want to challenge the jurisdiction, I want to say that, okay, you have issued a notice to me, you do not have a jurisdiction over me, then I have to challenge that particular jurisdiction within a particular time period. Even after that challenge, if assessing officer does not hear me, does not accept my objection, then later on, as I mentioned, I can say go to the court and tell the court that AO was not having any jurisdiction, still he has done an assessment over me, so I have to file my objection within a particular time period. This is the table which gives me those time periods within which this objection, this challenge to the jurisdiction is required to be filed. Okay, so if I have already filed a return of my income and then they want to make an assessment, then they will be issuing me a notice This you will again study in a separate chapter regarding assessment procedure. Whenever they are issuing me a notice within a 1 month from the date of that service of notice, or before completion of assessment, whichever is earlier, I have to file my objection. So you can go through these time limits. The whole idea is this, that the objection regarding this completion of this challenging the jurisdiction has to be filed within a specific time period. Then only your contention would be accepted. Okay, so within a particular time period, in different cases they will specify different time limits within which this challenge to the jurisdiction is required to be filed. Okay, another related issue with this. So there is this officer A who is having a jurisdiction over me, meaning thereby he will be handling all my cases, my assessment would be done by that officer, something like this. Okay. Now, whether during the course of that proceeding, when that assessment is going on, when that proceeding is going on, whether they can change my jurisdiction, they can transfer my case from one assessing officer to another. Section 127 of income tax permits this. That my case may be transferred from one officer to another. How this transfer would happen? This can be done by this PDGIT. Able to recall? PDGIT, Principal Director General of Income Tax, or Director General of Income Tax, or Principal Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, or Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, or Principal Commissioner or Commissioner of Income Tax. So officer at this first, second, and third level, okay, in that particular commissioner's hierarchy, first, second, and third level officers may transfer the case from one assessing officer to another assessing officer under section 127. But then there are certain conditions. You cannot do it based on, say, whims and fancies kind of thing without any, say, requirement. There is a, say, procedure which needs to be followed. So, say, first of all these officers, if they feel the case requires to be transferred from one officer to another, first of all, they need to give an opportunity of being heard to the assessee. This is a very important term. You will be facing this term again and again in income tax. Okay, so be very clear about that complete phrase. If you have to use it in your answer, use that complete phrase. This is reasonable opportunity of being heard. ROBH, just to remind it, just to memorize it. Okay, ROBH, reasonable opportunity of being heard. Number of cases you will find this proposition whenever anything is to be done, which may create some problem for the assessee. Then Act says that if at all this is to be done, let's hear him out. एक बार सुन तो लो. Let's give him an opportunity of say putting his aside. This is what is called ROBH, a reasonable opportunity of being heard. So if you are transferring this case from one to another, you need to give you need to inform about this to the assessee. Before doing it, you need to inform and then allow him to say his views on this, allow him to express his views on this. What is called ROBH, reasonable opportunity of being heard, is required to be given to the assessee. Second requirement, why you are doing it? There has to be reasons. These reasons are required to be recorded. They are required to be noted in the file. A recording of reason is another important aspect in number of income tax proceedings. Okay, recording the reason. Only after first you need to record in your file, then only you have to transfer. If later on it is found that you have done the transfer first, then recorded later on, somehow through technology or something which can be find out, then that whole procedure will become invalid. So only after you have recorded, you can transfer. So you have to record the reason why you want to transfer. What is the reason? Simply, I feel so and I just want this to be done will not do. There has to be some sound reasons. Okay, so two things, recording the reason and giving an ROBH. However, with respect to this ROBH, they say if the transfer is within the same city, okay, within Bombay itself, within Jaipur itself, within Bangalore itself, within Chennai itself, within the same city, locality, then this ROBH would not be necessary. You are transferring my case from Raipur to Jabalpur or from Gwalior to Agra. It's a different city. Then this ROBH would be necessary. Same city, if you are transferring, then ROBH, reasonable opportunity of being heard, would not be required. Okay. Then there may be one more tricky situation. You are transferring case from A to B and both happens to be under the different commissioners, okay, under different officers. There are there is PCCIT Chandigarh and PCCIT Ahmedabad, okay. So from Chandigarh, case is required to be transferred to Ahmedabad. If it is same officer within my jurisdiction, one AO to another, then I can do it. But here a different higher officer is involved, then how this transfer can be done? They say it can be done by the mutual agreement. And who will pass the order? Transferor. From where the case is going, he will say, from my jurisdiction to that other's jurisdiction, this case is getting transferred. But if they are not agreeable, Chandigarh says, I want to transfer, Ahmedabad says, I don't want it, I don't want to take it, then CBDT would obviously intervene, or CBDT may authorize any other officer who may pass the order for this particular transfer. Okay. One very important aspect regarding this whole transfer, and they ask this kind of questions also, huh? That's the small naughty issues in income tax. The transfer may be made at any stage of proceeding. There is an assessment going on. 3 notices officer has already issued to me. I have already give reply to these 3 notices. Now, before he issues 4th notice, the transfer has been done. First of all, that can be done at any stage of proceeding. It is not like this before you start assessment. At any stage, somewhere in between also, the transfer may be done. And then law makes it clear, now the new officer, whether he is required to issue all the notices again. No, whatever has been done by the previous officer, that is good enough. Reissue of notice would not be needed. So these are some small kind of issues. Majority of them you can memorize simply by having a common sense approach kind of thing. If they say all the notices are required to be reissued, this will be unnecessary duplication kind of thing. The law has made very clear you can transfer at any stage, but then the notice will not be required to be reissued as such. Okay. Okay. So Sanjay is asking, what would be the reasons for transfer from one jurisdiction to another jurisdiction? Sanjay, there may be many reasons. Okay, one may be pure administrative. The officer who is having current jurisdiction is overloaded. He is having huge number of cases to be completed. The other officer is free. He is not having any work to do. So that may be one of the reasons. So there may be number of reasons which may require transfer of case from one place to another. Okay. Fine. So transfer of cases. Okay. Fine. Let's complete this one more discussion and then we will go for a say 10 minutes break. Okay. So now this we have discussed section 127 where say one jurisdiction to another jurisdiction transfer was happening. 129 is handling a typical situation where the same place, same jurisdiction, the officer has got changed. Transfer. So same jurisdiction. Till now, Mr. A was there. Now Mr. A has been transferred. Mr. B has come in his place. So obviously, the new officer would continue my case now. So in a case where an income tax authority succeeds another income tax authority, okay, in place of A, now Mr. B, it is same. It is still the same office, same jurisdiction of Jaipur. But now it was earlier Mr. Ramesh. Now this is Mr. Harish, the new officer. Okay. So law gives two specific points here. A, they say that the new officer would continue the proceeding at the stage where it has been left by his predecessor. Okay. So it is simple, like an audit. Okay. So one article has done audit up to particular period. Now tomorrow the next article is going. So he will continue from where the earlier one has left. Similarly, so the new officer would continue from the place where the old has left. But then assessee has been given a right here. He may demand that before continuance of proceeding, a part of concluded proceeding may be re-examined or he may be reheard before taking the matter further. He may demand that, okay, you are allowed to continue from the place earlier one has left it. But sir, before you continue further, please listen to me once. I will give you a brief, whatever has been discussed earlier, what is the actual position. I can give you a brief idea, or you please examine this thing again. This has got relevance for subsequent discussion also. Again, just try to understand in a say common sense real life situation. So you are allowed to continue from the place earlier one has left it. But unless and until you see this document, which I have already submitted, you won't be able to do anything further. You won't be able to understand the further issues. So please examine this. Or you give me time. I will come to you, give me 1 hour, 2 hour. I'll explain you everything, what has happened, what has been done. Then you continue further. This is the right which has been given to the assessee. Now see very clear what the section says and what the section does not say. Examiner love creating question on these aspects. Assessee may demand. Whether the demand would be accepted or not, no provision. So assessee may demand, sir, before you continue, allow me to give you a brief, or please examine this document. New officer may feel, no, I can understand everything. Why to waste time on all these things? Then he can go ahead. Okay. So assessee may demand, but whether it is mandatory for AO to accept that particular demand, whether it is mandatory for new officer to give that ROBH to the assessee, that ROBH is not here. That was there earlier when it was transferred from one jurisdiction to another. Here there is no opportunity of being heard, no, not mandatory to accept the demand. So assessee may demand. The officer may or may not accept it. Okay, he will continue from the point where it has been left by the earlier one. So this is 129, succession of officer. 127, change of jurisdiction from one jurisdiction to another. 129, same jurisdiction, the officer has got changed. Okay, so this is about this whole transfer of cases and everything. Okay, just one more idea, doesn't require a detailed discussion to complete this part of our discussion. That is, there is nowadays a concept of faceless jurisdiction also. Okay, we have discussed about territorial jurisdiction, person-based jurisdiction, income-based jurisdiction. Now there is a concept of faceless jurisdiction, the faceless assessment, faceless proceedings. Okay, so central government has been empowered to frame a scheme, and they've actually framed a scheme called a faceless assessment scheme, where the say assessment, the jurisdiction would be handled by the officers in a faceless manner. There will not be any particular officer having a jurisdiction over me. Any officer in the faceless charge can issue a notice to me based on their internal understanding, department's internal procedure. Officer would be issuing notices to me, would be making my assessment. So now we have got two different type of say assessing officers. One is called jurisdictional assessing officer, JAO, who has a jurisdiction over me based on the territory, based on income, based on a person like this, jurisdictional AO. And then we have a FAO, faceless assessing officer, who is, say, working in a different manner, in a faceless manner, sitting at a different place, but he is exercising jurisdiction over me. So that will be done by the income tax department based on that faceless scheme notified by the government. Nothing detailed discussion at this point of time, just a basic idea should be good enough, that nowadays you have a, say, faceless officer also, who can have a jurisdiction over you, issue notices to you, make assessment in your cases. Okay, so this is about a very important aspect of the jurisdiction of income tax authorities. Okay, so we stop at this point of time, take a, say, quick 10 minutes break. Then after the break, we will have a discussion about powers of authorities, and then we will have the detailed discussion about income tax search and all those things. Okay, so it is, say, 7:40 in my watch right now. We will resume discussion sharp at 7:50, 10 minutes from now. Okay. Okay, so after this quick break, uh, let's start our discussion. We are trying to understand various aspects of income tax related with the income tax authorities. Okay, income tax officers, income tax persons who actually handle this whole income tax assessment, appeals, search, and all various related issues. So, various aspect about this income tax authorities, what we have discussed in our earlier discussion. What are these income tax authorities, starting from CBDT, then different level of commissioners, ITOs and TROs and inspectors and everything. What are the powers of CBDT, general powers, power about issuing instructions or circulars, we had a discussion. Then we discussed about that jurisdiction issues also, which officer would be having jurisdiction over which type of assessee, which category of assessee, and related aspects. Okay. Now, the next part of this whole discussion related with this whole income tax authorities are various powers of these different authorities. Okay, law has given various powers to these authorities. They have to do an assessment, they have to administer the whole of the act. So, for doing their job properly, they need various powers. Okay, so what are these various powers of income tax authority? We need to understand the approach for understanding this particular area should be to understand this whole idea from two perspectives. First is what all they can do, till what extent their power extends. Okay, so this is the area within which they can operate. We need to develop that clarity. At the same time, we need to develop a clarity what they cannot do. What is the borderline? What is the Lakshmana Rekha? What is the boundary which they cannot cross? Okay, so the idea is this: within that particular area defined by the act, they can exercise their powers, but at the same time, what they cannot do. And as I have mentioned in the start of the discussion, if any income tax authority tries to do something for which no power has been given in the act, what we will call, what we will say, that he is exceeding his jurisdiction. Okay, so even in examination, if the question is asked something like this, whether the income tax officer can do this or not, and your answer is no, he cannot do this, so what would be a proper professional language of this answer? You can simply write, no, 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 income tax officer cannot do this thing. Okay, he has done this and this is not correct, this is not possible, he cannot do something like this. Okay, or you can write your answer in a professional manner. As per the provisions of the Income Tax Act, income tax officer is not allowed to do this thing. Since he has done this thing, he has exceeded his jurisdiction, he has exceeded his authority. So exceeding the jurisdiction, exceeding the authority is a very important term. So any question on these aspects where you have been asked to test whether the assessing officer has done something correctly or not, and your answer is no, he has not done this thing correctly, then this phrase should be a part of your answer, that he has exceeded his authority, he has exceeded his jurisdiction. It conveys a very important message to the examiner. He feels that you are aware about the legal terminology also. You are able to talk in a professional manner. So exceeding the jurisdiction, exceeding the authority, powers of authorities, we need to see what are the powers, what are the four corners within which he can operate, and if he crosses that Lakshmana Rekha, so he will be exceeding his authority, he will be exceeding his jurisdiction. Okay, so let's try to understand what he can do, what are the powers given to him, given to an income tax authority. Okay, So these are various kind of powers, a list of say various powers which he can exercise. Okay. Some of them we will be discussing separately in great detail, like power of search and seizure, power of requisition of books of accounts, power of survey. Some of these we will be discussing in say separate greater detail. Okay, so let's try to understand them one by one. The very first power which is available to an income tax authority is under section 131 of income tax. If you can memorize these section numbers also, good enough. Okay. So what is this 131 power? Power regarding discovery, production of evidence, etc. Okay. So section 131 says that an income tax authority shall have the same power as are available to a civil court under the Code of Civil Procedure, what is called CPC. Okay. Uh, Same powers as are vested in a civil court. Now, say the point which needs to be seen here, that income tax officer is being treated as more or less equal to a judge. Okay, judge of a civil court. This is something very important. Okay, there are certain things which can be done only by a judicial person, by a judge of a civil court. Now, income tax officer can also exercise those powers which are available with the judiciary. So this becomes important. Okay. Now, what all are the powers of a court which are available to an income tax officer also? So he is having same powers as are vested in a civil court with respect to four matters, with respect to four issues. What a civil court judge can do, the same thing can be done by an income tax authority also. He will have same powers. Okay. What are these four matters? First is discovery and inspection. Okay, discovery and inspection of any evidence, any document, etc. Okay, so he will have same powers regarding inspection of any books of accounts, inspection of any documents, etc. Second is enforcing attendance on oath. Attendance on oath. Okay, enforcing attendance and oath. That means he may ask some person to present before him, like a court can issue a summons to a person that on this date you are required to be available in my court before me. In the similar matter, the income tax officer can also issue what is called a summons to a person that I require your presence in my office on this particular date. You have to be there before me. Okay, and then he can examine that person on oath. This is another very important power, examining a person on oath. Only court has that power. What is that examination on oath? So we all must have seen those say movie scenes where a person is standing in a court and then he puts his hand on say holy book Gita or Bible or Quran or something, and then he says that मैं Gita की कसम खा के कहता हूँ, something like this. So the court is examining that person on oath. The point is this, legal point is this: if any person is saying something on oath and later on it is found that it was false, then he may be penalized, he may be punished, he may be sent to jail. Saying something false on oath is considered to be very serious offense. So courts have a power to examine any person on oath. I cannot ask you, if we are having some discussion, I cannot ask you, yeah, you tell me on oath, and if later on it is found false, I will send you to a jail. I do not have that power as a private person. Court has that power. Now that power is there even with the income tax officers also. So he may enforce the attendance of a person and examine that person on oath. Okay. Then the third power he is having is compelling production of books of accounts and documents. He may ask any person that you have to produce before me these books of accounts and documents. Okay. And you cannot say no to him. compelling production of books of accounts and documents. Like court can say, there is a say dispute between two other persons, and court may ask you to produce some documents, court may produce some books of accounts, and you cannot say, sir, why I am being dragged into all these things. Court has got that power of compelling production of books of accounts and documents. Similar power are available even with the income tax authorities also. And then issuing commissions. Okay. Issuing commission is again a very important power available with the court. Issuing commission means they authorize some person to say examine, they can the court can authorize any officer, or for example to a police person, to bring a person before the court, issuing the commission. Okay. Or court may ask any government officer to carry out a particular examination. Similar kind of powers are available even with the income tax authorities also, issuing the commission. Okay, so the first point is this, say income tax authority shall be having four powers available with the civil code. Similar power as are vested in the civil code with respect to discovery and inspection, with respect to enforcing attendance of a person, examining him on oath, with respect to compelling production of books of accounts and documents, and with respect to issuing commissions. Okay, four aspects. Then, another important point related with these four is this, that for exercising powers in this area, for exercising powers in these four matters, it is not necessary that any case must be pending before me as an income tax authority. Okay, if I have reason to suspect, see these words very, very carefully. If any officer of the rank of PDGIT, Principal Director General of Income Tax, or to DDIT, from PDGIT to DDIT, all the officers in between. DDIT, that is Deputy Director of Income Tax. Okay. So from PDGIT till DDIT, all those 5, 6, 7 ranks of officers, if they have reason to suspect, read this term again carefully, reason to suspect. Okay, they have a suspicion, they have a doubt. In certain other places, you will find the term reason to believe. So there is a difference between reason to believe and reason to suspect. Here, what is the term Act is using? Reason to suspect. So if any officer has of this rank has reason to suspect that there is any concealment of income or any possibility of concealment of income. Okay. See, income tax authorities are ultimately concerned with the concealment of income, and that should be clear to everybody. Their only job is to ensure everybody pays a tax on its correct income. Nobody is doing a concealment of income. Their only problem in this whole world is about the concealment of income. So if they have reason to suspect that there is any concealment of income or possibility of concealment of income by any person within his jurisdiction, he may exercise all these powers, even if as of now there is no assessment pending, there is no case pending. Okay. What is the meaning of, before this, there is this query. What is the meaning of issuing commissions? Okay. Issuing commissions, that means asking any other officer to do some examination, to do some verification, or to produce any person before the income tax officers. So say, for example, they have sent a summons to a person asking him to be present before the income tax authority on a particular date. That other person is not responding, then income tax officer may send an intimation to the say police officer of that particular place, asking him that you bring that person before me in the income tax office. So income tax officer has issued commission to that police officer. This is what is something like a situation, issuing commission. It is not that commission, that our financial commission on which a TDS is applicable. So this is not the financial transaction we are talking. This is issuing commission. That means issuing instruction to any other officer to do something on behalf of income tax officer. Okay. Say for example, I as an income tax officer sitting in Mumbai, I want to say examine a person somewhere in Chennai. So I can send a message to the Chennai income tax officer, Chennai commissioner, that this person, following details are required from this person. So you please do this inquiry on my behalf. So this is issuing commission, authorizing somebody else to do some act on my behalf. Okay, so now the point we were discussing, that for exercising all these four types of power, uh, even if no proceeding is pending before me, still I can exercise these powers if I have a reason to doubt, I have a reason to suspect that there is any concealment of income, or there is a possibility of any concealment of income. Okay, so this is the say first provision related with the powers of income tax authority, powers under section 131. Okay. Yes. Now, another set of power again available under section 131 itself is with respect to books of accounts. Power to impound or retain books of accounts. See, one thing we need to understood very clearly, the background of it, then only you will be able to appreciate the real picture being generated by these provisions, that any income tax authority, or for that matter, any government officer, any government authority, can do only so much of the act, only so much of the things for which they have been given an express power by the law. So one might feel, yeah, he is a big officer, he can do whatever he wants. No, he has to work within the four corners of law. And as a professional, we need to understand it very clearly. What are those four corners? If anything has been done by officer within those four corners, it is fine. He has got full authority to do it. But the moment he want to do something more, we will start arguing, sir, this is exceeding the jurisdiction. So now what else he can do? He can issue the commission, he can enforce attendance of a person, examine me on oath, then he can compel the production of books of accounts and documents, etc. Now he can compel the production of books of accounts. So he has asked me to produce some documents, some books of accounts, etc. I have produced them. Whether he can retain these books with him. Now, first provision is not saying so. This is how we need to read. The whole idea about Income Tax Act is to learn how to read it. If you can learn this, income tax would be very, very easy. How to read it? So see very carefully. In the first case, what is the power? Compelling the production. So you can ask me, come to my office, produce this books of accounts. Fine enough. I went to his office, produce books of accounts. Now he says, keep it here. I would like to study them later. Based on this first provision, I can say, sir, you do not have the power to retain. You have asked me to produce. Act has given you authority to compel the production. I have produced before you. You examine, but you cannot retain. To cover this situation, now this next power, 131 subsection 3, they can ask me to produce, and then they have power to impound. That means keeping in their custody and retain the books of accounts. So they may ask me to produce, they may impound them, and they may retain these books of accounts with them. So now what exactly is this power? Income tax authority is vested with the power to impound or retain in its custody any books of accounts or other documents produced before it in any proceeding in this act. So any document, any books of accounts which has been produced, they may impound it also, they may retain in their custody also. Right? Now the next issue would be, okay, you may call for the production that has been done, then you can keep it with you also. Done. So the third aspect of this whole story would be how long you can keep it. The act says for such period as it may think fit. Whatever he thinks fit for that much period, he may keep all these books of accounts in his custody. Okay, so he may ask for the production, he may impound, and then he may retain the books of accounts. Okay. Now, one more aspect to this whole power related with the books of accounts and everything. For all the authorities, these powers are unrestricted. They have unrestricted power to impound and retain. But in respect of these lower level officers, okay, lower level officers, that is assessing officer, that is ITO, assistant or deputy director, ACIT, DCIT, ADIT, DDIT level, officers above them are having unrestricted power. But these lower level officers, there are two restrictions on these powers. Okay, first is he must record his reason. There has to be a recording, something in writing, why you would like to impound. And then if he want to impound it, retain in his custody beyond 15 days, then he must obtain the prior approval of the higher officer. Higher officer up to the rank of, say, director of income tax. Or the commissioner of income tax, commissioner or above, from that particular level, he has to obtain a prior approval. That means he can keep in his custody for 15 days without asking anybody. Okay, no officer, no higher authority approval, nothing is needed. 15 days period, act has given you a, say, free liberty kind of thing. Beyond 15 days, if you want to retain, then you need to obtain an approval from the higher authority. Now, again, these are some thing which needs to be seen very carefully. Whenever act requires an approval, you need to see what is the kind of approval, whether it is a prior approval or a simple approval. Here, what they are saying, he must obtain prior approval. पहले पूछना पड़ेगा. First you need to take an approval, then you can retain beyond. It's not like this that you are retaining with you, and then on 25th day you send a letter to higher officer, sir, I want to retain, please allow me. Even if the higher officer allows, that approval would be incorrect. The exceeding the jurisdiction, exceeding the authority issue would be there. There has to be a prior approval. Okay, so any officer at the level of, say, deputy commissioner, deputy director or below want to retain, he need to record his reasons, and then beyond up to 15 days he can retain. Beyond 15 days retention, a prior approval of higher authority would be needed. Officers above this category, they can retain without any restriction. So with respect to books of accounts and everything, now we are having that they may compel the production, they may impound, and they may retain subject to certain restrictions. So if the question comes in examination that this is the officer at the level of assistant director, he has impounded the books on 1st of January, and he has retained in his possession these books till 20th of January without taking any prior approval. Whether he can do so? My answer would be no, he cannot do so. The law permits only 15 days retention. If he is retaining beyond 15 days, he is exceeding his authority. And that's why the action is illegal, action is not correct. Simply saying no, he cannot do, this is not possible, this is not as per law, will not give you good marks in the examination. Okay, it has to be written in this professional manner that this is what is the permission by law, what you are doing is beyond what is permitted by law. So now you are not allowed to do this. You are exceeding your authority, you are exceeding your jurisdiction in this case. Okay, so power to impound or retain books of accounts. Fine. So these are three aspects, powers available to an income tax authority under this section 131. Okay. First power is with respect to these four aspects, and second power is with respect to impound and retaining the books of accounts in his custody. Okay. So this is about the first power of an income tax authority under section 131 of, described under section 131 of the Income Tax Act. Okay. Any questions till now before we go into the detail and then quite an interesting discussion about income tax search? Any question, anything which is not clear? Okay, fine. So now let's start our discussion about this very important topic about income tax search, income tax search and seizures. Okay, income tax raid, what is commonly known. Okay, okay. So income tax search, in search and seizure, income tax raid, what is commonly known. Okay, not only from an examination perspective, not only from a say chartered accountant professional perspective, but from a say common man's perspective also. You have nothing to do with income tax. You are say not reading it as a chartered accountant, as a professional, but even from a say common person's angle also, this whole topic is of say immense interest. Okay, you must have read number of say news items in the newspaper. Here the search has been done, there the search has been done, this much recovery has been done, this much unaccounted income has been found. You must have read all these news items. I'm sure number of you might have seen Hindi movies also, or say different movies also, where there is a say good depiction of this whole income tax search happening. Hero is an income tax officer and then doing all those things. So all these ideas, we have a say basic familiarity with this income tax search. This is something which is something known to us. Now today we will be developing an expert understanding into it. As a professional, what exactly we need to understand, what exactly is the search, how it happens, what are the powers, what is the responsibility, and then all those things. So actual real search, how it happens. And then again, the whole idea would be what are the powers available to the income tax officer, how these powers are to be exercised, what is the restriction, what is the Lakshmana Rekha they cannot cross. If they will cross it, we will say that this is exceeding the jurisdiction, and then all those ideas related with this issue of income tax search and seizure. Okay, commonly it is known as raid. Okay, income tax ka chapa, income tax raid. Technically, it is called search and seizure. Okay, so let's start. So, from where the whole story begins, we need to understand, we will try to develop an understanding about complete life cycle, from where it starts and then where it ends. That complete picture, different steps involved in this, we will be understanding all these things. Okay, so from where it starts, the whole process of search begins with the issuance of a authorization, what is commonly known as search warrant. A warrant has been issued, a search warrant has been issued. In the language of act, it is called authorization. Okay, so the whole process of search begins with issuance of authorization for search. And say when we are discussing this now, just try to form a mental image, try to go with this whole discussion with a mental step by step process, that what is the process, what should be the process, if this is not done then what will be the problem. Let's try to develop that mental say closeness with whatever is we are discussing. So just try to develop, and we will be discussing it in a very very common language kind of thing. Okay, avoiding too much of the technical jargons. So let's just for the moment think on these ideas, that income tax search is to be done by an income tax officer. Now, whether an income tax officer can go to the house of anybody and have a search, start doing a search. Oh, I was passing by from here and I just thought this house looks very nice, so let's do an income tax search. Obviously, this cannot happen. Obviously, this cannot allowed to happen. Otherwise, there will be a great misuse of power also. So whenever there is a power, there is always a chance of its misuse. So Act has to create various restrictions so that that misuse does not happen. So the whole idea is this, that search cannot happen like this. There has to be a proper search warrant. There has to be a issuance of a search authorization. Now, who can issue? See the authorities and try to correlate with their hierarchy. We are talking about higher level officers, है ना? CIT and above. So principal chief commissioner, chief commissioner, principal commissioner, and commissioner. These top four level officers, and along with them, principal director general, director general, director, principal director. Okay, PDGIT, DGIT, PDIT, DIT, PCCIT, CCIT, PCIT, and CIT. So these officers, these are basically after the CBDT first four layer of officers. They can only issue the search warrant, the authorization of search. In some cases, the power has been brought down two notch below. Additional commissioner or additional director or joint director or joint commissioner, if they have been specifically empowered by the board, by the CBDT in this regard. So in some cases, CBDT empower at the officer at the level of ADIT, ACIT or JDIT, JCIT to issue the search warrant, to issue the search authorization. Otherwise, by and large, generally, the authorization has to be issued CIT or above level, the very first thing. So just try to keep this thing in mind. You may be one day actually asked to challenge the validity of a search. So what all may be the grounds of that challenging the validity? The very first ground would be, sir, the authorization has not been issued properly. It has been issued by, say, deputy commissioner person, or it has been issued by an assistant commissioner level officer. Absolutely illegal, absolutely against the provisions of the law. Okay, so it has to be issued by a proper authority. So the first idea, the search warrant authorization. Okay. So now, assuming, to take the story forward, the search warrant has been issued properly. The authorization of search has been issued. Then the next step. But even before this, okay, even for issuing that authorization, what are the requirements? Even at that level, at the commissioner or above level, they can simply issue, say, authorization one fine day. So I'm Manish Dafaria here, and say some income tax officer may feel all these Manish named persons are not good, so they need to be searched, and they, whether he can issue a, say, authorization against me, or for that matter against anybody. You are the higher officer, but still you also have certain restrictions on this power. So authorization can be issued when the income tax authority, and every single word would be important, in the consequences of information in his possession. The very first requirement, you need to have certain information with you. Some information with you. You cannot simply out of a blue issue a, say, search warrant against any XYZ. So there has to be some information with you. Based on this information, you should have reason to believe. Mind you, at one place we have earlier talked about reason to suspect, and here we are talking about reason to believe. There is a difference. Reason to suspect, you can suspect on anybody on any basis, but belief require, say, certain proper kind of, say, data, proper information available with you. So based on information, if you have only reason to doubt that this person has done a concealment of income, it will not do. You need to have reason to believe. So there is a difference between reason to doubt or reason to suspect and reason to believe. So in examination, if you are writing, if he has got reasons, 0 marks. If you are writing, he has got reason to doubt, 0 marks. He should have reason to believe. Very important term. So in consequence of information in his possession, the authority has reason to believe that a person is subject to certain defaults. What kind of defaults we will see later on. Then only he can issue that such warrant, he can issue that such authorization. So there has to be information. This information should be so strong that there are reasons to believe that I have committed certain kind of defaults. Then only you can issue a search warrant against me. But then this reason of belief are not required to be disclosed to any authority or to any appellate tribunal. Court may ask you to disclose this, but appellate tribunal or any other authority cannot ask the income tax officers to disclose the reasons. Reason should be there, but they are not required to be disclosed to any other authority or to any appellate tribunal. Okay, fine. Now, with respect to this authorization, the another thing remains: what kind of default? The officer should have reason to believe that a person is subject to certain defaults. So what all kind of defaults, a belief about which can generate that authorization. So act talks about that he should have, the officer should have reason to believe that the person to whom a summons under section 131 we just discussed earlier, or a notice under section 142(1) was issued, has failed to comply with this notice. I have asked him to produce any books of accounts, etc., before me, but he has not produced it. Or I feel that if a notice would be issued to this person, he will not be complying. I know that this person has got various problems, various issues. He is non-complying. He doesn't follow the law. So even if we will be issuing a notice, he will not be complying with it. On this basis, also, I can issue a search warrant. C is probably the most important. Practically 9 out of 10 such authorizations are issued based on that third point only. If in consequences of information in my possession, I have reason to believe that a person is in possession of any valuable article, thing, including money, bullion, jewelry, etc., representing any income which has not been disclosed. See, as I was mentioning earlier, see, the whole idea of an income tax authority is to ensure that there is no concealment of income. No income is there which has not been disclosed for income tax purposes. So now, as a commissioner of income tax, for example, I have reason to believe that you are the person having in your possession any such thing which represents your undisclosed income. This is the information I'm having. This is the information based on which I feel I have reason to believe that there are undisclosed income with you. I can issue a search warrant in your case. So a person is in possession of any valuable article or thing, including money, bullion, or jewelry, etc., representing income or property which has not been disclosed or would not be disclosed for the income tax purposes. So just think now in a practical scenario. So income tax department came to know that this person is having a huge amount of, say, gold available with him, or huge cash is available with that particular person, and this whole gold, this whole cash represent concealed income, undisclosed income. They can go do a search on that particular person. The officer would be issuing a search warrant, authorization of search in respect of that particular person. Okay, so this is the first aspect of search. Okay, every step and every step will have its own, say, surrounding rules and regulations and provisions, so we need to have a clarity about every aspect and entirety. Okay, examiner may ask a question with respect to any one step only. So okay, they may frame a question related with this whole authorization of search itself. Who can issue? So we need to have that clarity. What are the requirements in consequences of information is possession? He has reason to believe. What all defaults may lead to, say, issuance of the search warrant? So these two three items. So this is the first step of the search, and all the provisions related with that first step, that is issuing the authorization, issuing what is called the search warrant. Okay, now the next one. Now the story starts. Now the, say, matter moves further. So the authorization has been issued. Just start imaging, na? Start, say, running a movie, running a, say, web series in your mind. See this everything actually happening. You will be able to connect in a better manner. You will be able to learn it in a better manner. Okay, so now the, say, commissioner has issued a search warrant, an authorization of search. Given authorization to any lower level income tax officer, go and do a search at the premises of this particular person. Okay, so now the search starts happening. Okay, so income tax officer is before the house, and in the morning 6 o'clock they are ringing the doorbell. Ting tong, we are from income tax office. Okay, the search. Now the actual search. So what all they can do during the course of search? What we have discussed just now was pre-search, that authorization. Now it is actual search happening during the course of search. That income tax officer is there in the house, in the premises of that particular person, and actually doing the search. So again, what all he can do, and then what he cannot do. So what are the powers income tax officer is having during the course of search? He has got some powers with respect to the place and person. So there is a place where the search is happening. So first power he is having is to enter and search any building, place, vehicle, aircraft where he has reason to suspect that something is hidden. Any books of accounts, documents, money, bullion, jewelry, other valuable article are kept. है ना? Again, for the sake of examination purpose, this money, bullion, jewelry, other valuable article, you can always keep this thing in mind as one single phrase. So always write all these things together. It will create a good impression on the examiner. Money, bullion, jewelry, other valuable article or thing. So wherever you have a reason to doubt, you have a reason to suspect that any books of accounts, any documents, etc., are hidden, or any money, bullion, jewelry, valuable article, etc., have been kept, or hidden, he may enter and he may search that building, place, vehicle, aircraft, etc. Okay, just understand. Normally speaking, nobody has a right to enter in my house. है ना? My house is my private property. I can decide who will come, who will not come. Nobody can simply barge into my house. But if an income tax officer has been given a proper authorization of search, he has got this right, this power to enter and search my place, my building, wherever he doubts that something is hidden. So he can do this, and he can do this. Otherwise, without authority, if you do this, the person doing this would be sent to jail. If somebody tries to enter into my house without my permission, I can simply call the police in this case. But income tax officer has been given a power to do this. He can do this. Second, what he can do, he can break open the lock. Just imagine. Normally, nobody can do this. This is an offense. But law is making it legal for an income tax officer to do this. He can break open the lock of any door, box, locker, safe, almirah, etc., if you do not hand over him the keys. So he has entered, he has started searching, he has found an almirah locked. So we'll ask the person, okay, hand over me the keys. The person says, sir, I don't have keys, I have lost them, I am trying to find them out, I'm not able to find, and all kind of excuses he start giving. The officer would have a right to simply throw an hammer, break that particular locker, that box, that safe, that almirah, etc. Legal right. Okay. So he has entered, he has break open the lock. All this locks, walks have been broken. Then he can search the person. Okay. Searching that person. Imagine that particular scene actually happening, searching that particular person. Okay. What all persons can be searched who are in that particular building, and who is in that building very clearly, but read it carefully. Who has got out of, who has just got out of that building or is about to get into. The person who is in the building in that place, he can be searched. Who was standing outside and was just about to go into that building, that person can also be searched. And who has recently jumped out of that particular building and an income tax officer has got hold of that person can also be searched. Okay, so regarding place and person, three powers are there: enter and search any building, place, etc., break open the lock, and search any person. Three categories of persons who are there inside, who is about to get into it, or who has just got out. If he suspect that this person is hiding something, any books of accounts document, money, bullion, jewelry, or any other valuable article or thing that person is hiding with himself, then income tax officer can search that person also. So first three powers with respect to place and person. Then another aspect with respect to that money, bullion, jewelry, or other valuable article or thing. And that common phrase, these four terms are pakke dost. They will always go together wherever. So just memorize them as it is: money, bullion, jewelry, valuable article or thing. So now, what are the powers available with respect to that? Say he has entered, है ना? He has break open all this locks, walks, everything, search that particular person. Now, what next? He will obviously find something. So what he will find? What he will find? Cash, huge amount of cash, jewelry, any other valuable article or thing. For this only the search has been done, right? So now what he can do? I'm again and again saying, try to form a picture. It is actually happening like this. So step by step we are understanding. So it will create a better connect in your mind. Okay. So the next step would be logically to do something with respect to whatever you have found during the search. So what he can do? He can do two things with respect to those money, bullion, jewelry, valuable article, etc. First is he can make a list. So what is the legal language they are using? Make a note or an inventory. How much? How much cash? You must have seen those TV footage where the cash is being counted using this counting machine and everything. So this is what is the power we are discussing right now. Make a note or an inventory, counting. How much jewelry, how much other valuable article, he can make a note or an inventory. Then what other thing he can do, and this is important, he can seize them. See, counting is one thing, you can count, but whether you can take it with you, yes, Caesar. That's why the name is search and Caesar. So he can seize it also. He can seize any books of accounts, documents, money, bullion, jewelry, other valuable article or thing found as a result of such. Seize, that means taking with himself. Just imagine the situation. So there is a search in a house. There is a jewelry. They have found that jewelry. They have counted that jewelry. Fine. Now they want to take it with them. The lady of the house would have a say huge amount of resistance. Why you want to take my jewelry with me? There is a marriage in the family some days after. What I will wear? This is my jewelry, my mother. All sorts of emotional issues would be there, but they have a right to take that jewelry with them. Seize any books of accounts, other documents, money, bullion, jewelry, or other valuable article. Practically speaking, you can take cash, fine, we will manage. But my jewelry you can take with you. But yes, law is allowing them to seize that jewelry also. Okay. One exception is this: if these items are forming part of my stock in trade, then you cannot seize it. You cannot stop my business. If it is my personal jewelry, you can take it with you. That is allowed. But if it is my business, say it's a jeweler's shop where the search has been done. Now, whole of the jewelry is part of my stock in trade. You will seize it, take it with you. My business would go close tomorrow. What I will do in the shop then? So then the exception has been created that if it is stock in trade, etc., that then you cannot seize it. Otherwise, you can seize all these money, bullion, jewelry, valuable. So you can make a note, inventory, and then you can seize, you can take it with yourself. Okay. So powers regarding place and persons, power regarding money, bullion, jewelry, valuable article. What else you will find during the course of search? You will found number of documents, books of accounts. So somebody might have done number of say unaccounted transaction, might have sold land where for the price of say 1000 crores, but actual transaction value shown in the books is only 100 crores. 900 crores he might have received in cash. So there is a document giving all these details that this is the price on this date I have received this much cash and something. So you will find that the search party, the income tax officers who are doing this search, they will find this good number of books of accounts and other documents also. Okay, so now what are the powers with respect to this books of accounts and other documents? A, require any person who is now the problem is this, that nowadays in the world of technology, good number of documents would be there in a system, not in the physical form but in the electronic form, in a laptop, and that laptop might be password protected. So the person where the search is being conducted, he may refuse to share the password. He may say, if income tax officer would come to know about all my unaccounted transactions, there will be a problem. So he say I'm not going to give you the password. You do whatever you want. The legal requirement is this: the income tax officer doing the search may require any person who is found to be in possession or control of any books of accounts or other documents maintained in electronic forms to afford him necessary facility for the inspection. Income tax officer can compel that person that you have to share your password with me, so that I can examine, I can verify whatever documents, whatever data is there inside that particular system. So that is with respect to electronic record. Now, there are physical documents also. You will be getting good number of physical papers, documents, something written here, something written there. So marriage has taken place in the family 2 3 months back, so there is a huge hisab of that marriage, huge account of that marriage, how much payment made to caterer, how much payment made to tent wala, all these payments are out of unaccounted money. So huge number of documents they will be getting. What they can do, they can place marks of identification on that document. Okay, they can do a tick mark, they can mark that okay, all these documents we have found during the course of such, and they can make copies of it also, extracts or copies. Okay, so they can take copies also, they can make copies also. Apart from this, any person who has been found to be in possession of this whole documents, books of accounts, money, bullion, jewelry, etc., he can examine that person on oath. Recall, we have discussed in 131 also that they can examine the person on oath, which is a power normally available to the court judges. Such case also, income tax officer has been given that power to examine any person on oath. Okay, what we call that he can record a statement, he can ask various questions from that person, and then say administer an oath on that person, so that if later on it is found that he has given a wrong statement, a wrong information, he can be penalized, he can be punished for giving a wrong information on oath. So he can examine that person on oath also. uh, so these are the powers which are available with respect to those books of accounts and other documents. Okay, with respect to electronic record, you can ask the person to share the password, everything, so that proper verification can be done, marks of identification can be put, copies can be done, and then the persons can be examined on oath. Fine. So these are, say, three powers, three different categories of powers available to an assessing officer, to an income tax officer during the course of search. Okay, he can enter and search the place, break open the lock, search the person, money, bullion, jewelry, etc., make an inventory, seize them, books of accounts, etc., place marks of identification, make a copy, and examine the person on oath. Okay. So this is broadly that process of actual search. There are a number of other issues related with this, but this is, in a sense, the second step in that whole life cycle of search. The authorization has been issued, the income tax officer has come to that particular place, and during the course of search, what all things can be done by them, whether they can seize my books of accounts, money, bullion, jewelry, etc. Yes, they can seize it also. They can say make an inventory also. They can take all these things with them, except when this money, bullion, etc. Are part of my stock in trade. Okay. Now, within the time available, we are just say on the verge of closing this. So let's discuss some more aspects of this particular search. One or two aspects we will be discussing. Then we can have say some questions answers also if at all there. And then the remaining aspect of such we will be discussing in our next session day after tomorrow on 20th of November. Okay. So with respect to search, that authorization has been issued. The search is being done by that income tax officer. The search team, the income tax authorities are there in the premises of that particular person where the search is happening. They have entered that particular place, break open the lock, found various say money, bullion, jewelry, etc. Make a note of it. Inventory has been made. Copies of documents have been created, and the seizure has happened. Okay. Now, various other issues during the search. Okay, this is a very important concept. We have talked about seizure, that he can seize this money, bullion, jewelry, valuable article, etc. Seize means he can take it with himself. Okay, keep in their custody at the income tax office. Okay. But then sometimes there may be a practical problem. There may be a say practical difficulty in this seizure. Okay. So this leads to another concept, what is called constructive seizure. So what exactly may happen during search? Authorized officer who has been authorized by that authority to do the search. Okay, so authorized officer has power to seize all these valuable article, money, bullion, jewelry, valuable article, thing, etc. Seizure means taking the physical possession and taking them to a different place, taking them to income tax office. Okay. Now, sometimes it may not be possible to take the physical possession of any valuable article, thing, etc., and to remove it. Sometimes there may be a physical problem in taking the physical possession. So say for example, they have found say huge quantity of some agriculture produce kind of thing. Okay. So huge quantity of say soya bean has been found, and that has not been declared, that is unaccounted, the purchase by unaccounted money or something like this. No books of accounts, no stock record, nothing. Huge quantity of any agriculture produce they have found. Now they can seize it. Seizure would require taking it with themselves. Now the problem is this is agriculture produce, this is stakes of soya bean, stakes of wheat, thousands of kilograms of soya bean. So, sir, what I will do, where I will take it, keep it with me. If it is, say, jewelry, then it is okay. If it is cash, then it is okay. I can take it with me. But there may be certain items where, say, taking a physical possession may not be possible at all. I have a power to seize them. But how to do that seizure actually? The constructive seizure concept comes into picture. So wherever it is not possible or practicable to take physical possession of any valuable article or thing and remove it to a different place due to volume, weight, other physical characteristic, or due to it being of a dangerous nature. So, there may be a risk of say taking it to a different place. So then what authorized officer can do? He can simply give an order to the person who is owner of those items or who is having control over those items that look, these are the items. I could have seized them, take with them, take with me, but I am not removing them from here. I am allowing these items to remain here, but you won't be touching them, you won't be dealing with them without my permission. So they are lying here, but they are under my control. They are under my custody. So this is called a constructive seizure, as if I have taken them with me, as if I have removed them with me. I'm not able to do it because of weight, volume, physical characteristic. I'm allowing them to remain here, but you cannot touch them without my permission. Now onwards, this is my property. This is called constructive seizure. So for this purpose, the authorized officer may serve an order on the owner or the person who is in the possession or control of those valuable article or thing, etc., that he will not remove it, he will not part with it, he will not otherwise deal with this without the previous permission of the authorized officer. So I have simply issued an order, put a say paper somewhere that all these things are under my control. They are lying here, but they are under my control. This is called constructive seizure. So what will be the impact of constructive seizure? As if the officer has actually taken it with them. If an officer would have taken these items with him, so the actual owner would not be able to say deal with those items. So it is exactly the same kind of say implication. They are lying here at the very same place, but now they are in my custody. You cannot touch it, you cannot deal with them without my prior permission. Okay, so this is deemed to be the seizure of such valuable article or thing, and that's why it is generally called a constructive seizure. Okay, so now with respect to all items found during the course of search, they can do an actual seizure or they can do a constructive seizure. Like with actual seizure, we have seen that exception. Anything which is stock in trade, you cannot do an actual seizure. So for those items which are my stock in trade, you cannot do even a constructive seizure also. The whole idea is this: you cannot stop my livelihood. You cannot stop me carrying on from my business. If you have seized, actual or constructive seizure of my stock in trade has been done, I will not be able to carry on my business. So that's why there is an exception with respect to seizure as well as constructive seizure with respect to stock in trade. So with respect to seizure, now there is this special idea related with the constructive seizure. Okay, one more aspect we may discuss and then we can wind up for the day or say have some questions on this. Now another aspect related with the search, we are trying to understand now various other related issues. Main search process we have discussed, entering and making note and all those things. Now the other related aspect, one aspect we have seen, this is constructive seizure. Another is this, that for the purpose of this income tax search, though it is income tax department procedure, but then the authorized officer may take the services of any police officer or any officer of the central government. Okay, so this is income tax department process, but then he can take the say help of police officer. This is a legal right, or any officer of the central government. Now read it carefully. Any officer of the central government. What he can do, what he cannot do, any officer of state government, he cannot take help. What they are saying is very clearly, what they are saying very clearly, that it is only officer of the central government. So police officer or any officer of the central government or both, he can take the help. Or he may take help of any other person or entity which has been approved by that PCCIT or CIT or PDGIT or DGIT. Sometimes they require say help of some technical persons for understanding all those computerized transactions and everything, so they may take help of any other person or entity which is approved by that higher level officer. Police officer or central government officer, without any approval, they can always take help. any other entity or person, they can take help if it has been approved by that higher level officer, help with respect to assist him in the search operation. And if this request has been made, the officer would be legally bounded to assist in the search operation. Police officer cannot say, no, I have got all the other things to do. I have nothing to do with your search. This is income tax department problem. Income tax officer, if he has issued a request for assistance, then it will be mandatory, obligatory for that police officer to help him during that search process. So this is another aspect related with the search. Okay, this is only a part of the discussion regarding search and seizure. We are having a number of other things are required to be discussed. The time is running out, so we will not be taking all those issues today. Next session, day after tomorrow, we will meet again to take up this discussion further regarding various other aspects related with the search. And then we will also have a discussion about, say, the younger brother of search, what is called survey, the smaller part of the smaller version of search kind of thing. So that survey also we will be discussing in the next session. We have got one or two queries. So let's take up those queries. Okay. So, Mr. Swaminathan K, somewhere from South region, and he is asking how the AO will segregate the items belonging to the business and personal nature. It will be mixture of both. Okay, so the idea is this: if it is stock in trade, you cannot seize it. If it is personal, then only seizure can be done. So query is being asked how the segregation will be done by the income tax officer. Okay, what is business, what is personal? So first of all, in number of cases, to your business itself may be different. So depending upon nature of your business, say for example, I gave that example of that stake of soya bean or stake of agricultural produce. If your business is to deal in those agriculture produce, then obviously you cannot seize it. Okay, say for example, your business is of say agriculture produce, and what he has found is a say valuable motor car in my house. Then very clearly motor car is a personal asset, it has nothing to do with my business. So in number of cases that the segregation would be clear based on nature of business. Business is of motor car and you have found jewelry at my place. So now very clearly jewelry is not stock in trade, that is personal asset that you can seize. Some cases the nature of business itself may be like this, that you may have a difficulty in segregation, like jeweler itself. So now the jewelry would be stock in trade and jewelry would be personal also. How to do a segregation? Income tax is very clear. If assessee wants to take benefit of any provision, he has to prove it. So if you want to say that, okay, this is my stock in trade, please don't seize it, you need to prove based on your books of accounts, based on your stock records, etc. You should be able to prove that this much jewelry is part of my business. Or a more practical situation may be where it has been kept, say jewelry kept in my house locker and jewelry kept in my shop. So very clearly what is there in the shop, that is stock in trade, but whatever is there in my house, that is my personal property, that can be seized. So there is no hard and fast criteria, but depending upon facts and circumstances of the case, this distinction is to be made. Have I made it clear? Okay. Fine. So I think we are just about the time. It is say 8:59 in my watch right now. Till 9 o'clock, we have got time to continue this discussion. So I think this is time to wind up. The next session, we will be continuing with the very same discussion about, say, income tax authorities, powers regarding search, powers regarding survey, and then we will also have a discussion about a very new concept called DRP, Dispute Resolution Panel. That is the agenda of our next day's discussion. Okay, so winding up at this point of time, thank you very much. Good night. Yeah, session over. It's 9 o'clock, na? Good night, ji. Thank you very much.